What up, everybody? Welcome to the Grit and Grind Show, brought to you by the Off the Bench podcast. Today is a good one. We're talking all-star. We're talking champion. We're talking Griffin Roelle of the Atlanta Wild. It's going to be a good episode. Griffin has got a long history of just competitive fitness, and we're going to dive into all that. We're going to talk about, this past season with the Wild, winning a championship, what that's like. And then obviously we got to talk about what it's like to have the target on your back, because when you win it all, the next season you are the hunted. So before we bring him in, we got some business to attend to. The Off the Bench podcast and the Grit and Grind Show is brought to you by Chinook Seedery. Whether you're on the field or in the boardroom signing deals, Chinook helps you get the job done. Memphis City Designs, get your brands, gear, and logos on everything from shoes to underoos. Relief Chiropractic, go see Dr. Vic Robinson. He's got the magic hands. He's rejuvenating people, and he's adding years to their lives. And finally, Old Dominick Distillery. Experience 150 years of tradition in the heart of downtown Memphis. From bourbon to vodka, whiskey to gin, Old Dominick's got you covered. Stop in today for a tour or just to pick up your favorite bottle. And with that, can't wait. We got to get to it. Help me welcome onto the show, Griffin Roelle. Griffin, my man, dude. What's up, dude?
Hey, dude, how are you going? How's everything going?
We are good. We are blessed. We've had a solid week of guests, really a solid start of the 2025 year with just guest after guest. And I'm just trying to get an idea of who's re-signing, who's going where, who's doing what, but really, understanding where players are coming from and getting an idea of like how they got into this awesome sport of grit. But for you, obviously, are you in Atlanta? Do you live there?
I mean, everyone that lives here says they live in Atlanta, but I'm like 25 minutes north. So sure.
I coached baseball for a long time, and I've had many trips to Atlanta. And when you go to Atlanta for baseball, you go to everywhere, which, it could be 40 miles away. It could be 60 miles away. It could be right, within driving distance of the hotel or a stone's throw. But what I will say about Atlanta is it takes about an hour to get anywhere, or at least that was my experience.
That's true. That's pretty much right. Yep.
The traffic is crazy, and I don't know what the weather's like, but it's cold down here in Tampa right now. So people, they forget who they are. So it just makes commuting that much more difficult. So
yeah, people in Atlanta, especially like because it just snowed and iced over, so like everybody in Atlanta couldn't go anywhere at all because you don't have trucks scraping the ground up in there and don't putting salt down. But I would say like, so there's OTP, ITP, basically inside the perimeter, outside the perimeter of like the big 285 that circles Atlanta, and I live just outside of it, and like ever up here it snowed, but then we were good to go. So like, nice. But people in Atlanta, dude, trying to get in and out of there, it at least is an hour. We're probably 20 miles away.
Yeah. You only go there unless you have to. So
pretty much.
Is that where you're from? Are you from Atlanta?
I was born in California, Southern Cal, but I've lived most of my life over here.
All right. What's did you live in California long enough to decide whether you have a preference between the East or the West Coast?
Yeah. I mean, back then I preferred the West Coast. Obviously now I wouldn't, but, yeah, but I mean, growing up, my dad was a football coach and a strength and conditioning coach. So I got to be by the beach doing hill sprints, it was perfect, but we moved over here. My mom's family was over here. So,
not knowing anything about you, I am not shocked that dad is a football coach and a strength coach. That makes me wonder, like, did you have an option of whether you were going to play football or lift weights, or it was just inevitable? Like, this is what you're going to do.
Genetically, I had no decision, but like as a human being, yeah, I had my dad ended up coaching me when I was in, I think, second grade. So when he started coaching me, he stopped coaching the high schoolers. And because I asked him to. And after like the first or second practice, he was just like, I don't think I'm going to do this. And I told him, I was like, hey, like, if you're not going to coach, I'm not going to play. And he ended up coaching. And like, only because it wasn't because it was my dad. I just knew how good he was at what he did.
Yeah.
And after like our first year, I think I lost us maybe 3 or 4 games in 8 years.
Jeez.
Like, okay, he coached us through middle school too, and we didn't lose ever. Didn't lose.
Studs, man. I mean, the guy leading the ship, man. He's got some things figured out. That's for sure.
Well, we only ever had maybe 20 kids on our team. It's not even enough to scrimmage each other half the time, but it's just the way it was run, like, yeah, it wasn't easy. You did a lot of shit that you didn't want to do, but that's what it takes to win, right? Like,
yeah,
people had to hit. People had to really want to hit. And if you didn't want to hit, you're going to get hit. So, but the mentality was very like also military style, like feet at attention, hands by your side, and a line. Don't like everything was very precise. Don't get me wrong, we had a lot of fun, but it was a really good way to like learn how to be a part of a team. It's that also like it fast forward into that, like that's something I truly miss, like in the CrossFit realm, is like you don't have that team camaraderie stuff anymore because they push individuals so hard. But yeah, I mean, it's a different world, and I grew up like that, but I also grew up winning all the time. So, but also knowing what it takes to win. Which is different.
Yeah, winning is the byproduct of what you put into it. And a lot of people just go, well, you won all the time. Well, yeah, but you didn't see all the stuff that I did to make that happen. You just don't show up and win. No. There's work that goes into it. And obviously with your career and where you're at currently, you've put in a lot of work because you've had a lot of like big time accolades that you can tack on to your resume. But let's get into it. Obviously, for you, you're a football guy, lifted weights for the better part of your life. What point? Did you go a college route? Did you play anything in college? And if so, where?
I played football. I also played lacrosse in college. I played at Valdosta State, which is a Division II school. Won a national championship. Nice. But I went that route specifically because I played, like, if you don't know a ton about football, like we ran a spread offense, and I played every position on the field. I knew every single one, but we switched to a spread offense in high school, and I ended up going from like playing running back and halfback and slot receiver. And then like in college, I knew I'd end up having to play slot receiver. So I went to a school that I knew that was going to run a spread offense and had a chance at I was looking at like, how do I go to the NFL? Like, how do I get opportunities to make that happen? So I went there, played there, started as a true freshman, was leading the country in receiving yards and reception my freshman year, broke my collarbone, came back, led the team my sophomore year. We won a national championship my third year. But I also played lacrosse too. It was just club. They didn't want me to play, but I played lacrosse most of my life. I was playing some sport my entire life, 2 or 3. As long as you could play them, I was always playing them. Lacrosse was my fun sport, I like to call it. Not that football wasn't fun, but it was more of like a serious job. I always wanted to play in the NFL. And I got close. Thought I was going to go play for the Jags. There was a couple other teams that were also interested, but like I legitimately thought that's where I was going to end up playing, and I didn't. So that kind of led me into CrossFit from there.
So at what age are you? Are you fresh out of college at this point? Are you a couple years removed?
2015, I was going through all of my combine stuff, getting recruited, kind of figure out what was going to happen. And then I wasn't ever going to be drafted, but plenty of guys get invited to camps and stuff. Yeah. Right. And I went through that, and like by that season, like it didn't happen. I was like, this is like, I legitimately was waiting for that phone call, didn't get it, which is like rough. And you kind of like sit there and wait, and you're like, how long do you wait around on this? And with the NFL, it's kind of like you're either in or you're out. And then once you're kind of in, like you might be able to trickle around at some teams. But after that, you're like, you're not going to go, you don't get invited to tryouts. You don't get like 1 year later. So my uncle had been doing CrossFit at the time, and he was I don't know, maybe like just in the 50 category. But that was 2015 to 2015. summer of 2015. So I'm 24, 25, 24, something like that. 24. And he invited me out to California and was like, "Hey, I think you'd be good at CrossFit. I think you should go see this and like check it out." All right, whatever. I was like, I don't know. I'm still kind of trying to figure out the football and see how I could play. And then I started thinking about playing the CFL, and like, then I decided I wasn't going to do it. I was like, either going to play in the NFL or not. And I went out and saw the games in Carson. I was hooked when I saw this is the 2015 games. I was hooked when I saw the like the sandbag event in the arena in the tennis stadium when they had to take the sandbags down the stairs and throw them in a barrel and like figure out how to get out. And I was like, man, I got to be in here. I got to be doing this. It's funny, that same day I had two of my coaches that are two college coaches that have always told me like, hey, I want you to come coach for me when you're done playing football. And they called me like, hey, I just wanted to see what you were doing, what your plans were. And I was like, I'd love to come coach, but like, I'm not done as an athlete. I just have more.
You told him, I'm trying to figure out how to load sandbags in a wheelbarrow, bro. Sorry.
I'm trying not to make any money
to do.
I'm trying to go waste all my money doing competitive fitness. Well,
you're gonna live a long time though.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, it's different. It's a different style of training, right? Instead of football and just getting as big and powerful as you can. I mean, one of them's going to be the new OC for Michigan this year. So,
hey.
Right.
What, do you think so? Prior to your uncle telling you about CrossFit, you had no idea what it was, other than the fact that he did this.
Yeah, I mean, except for randomly on on ESPN being like seeing like, what the hell is this? I still have this weird image in my brain of what the games were. I don't even know if it was the games, but it was on ESPN, and like I was like, what is this? And then just kind of like passed on, and then comes back around. I'm like, oh, I kind of vaguely remember seeing this.
Right.
I went. I don't remember. I think it was before I went out to see him. My uncle was like, hey, why don't you test this workout? It's called Fran. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I did know like they, guys were doing like weird gymnastic movements for pull-ups. So I was like, all right. He's like, hey, do this? And I was like, all right, what's a good time? And he's like, I don't know, just go do it. I'm like, okay. So I'm going to be competitive and look it up. And I'm like, all right, I just watched butterfly pull-ups, taught myself to do it. And I did Fran in 2.5 minutes. And I texted him and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, you got to do this sport. So
you just looked at butterfly pull-ups and you go, I could do that, and just bang them out.
I'm a visual learner. If you show me something, I can teach myself to do it.
I mean, what a better way to be thrown into the fire than to do Fran and then turn around and go, what's the big to do? That wasn't too bad.
I mean, it hurt.
How did you? Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. At least tell me, for my make me feel good and tell me that it hurt. Like,
oh yeah, no, it still hurt. Definitely hurt.
Yeah. So with CrossFit, it's been a wild ride. With you, you've done it all, man. Games, you've been demo team, you've done opens, you've done semifinals, you've done quarterfinals, you've done online. Where's your head in the current model that we see? We got a rule book that came out. I wish I had looked through it to give you a better idea. I do know they've gone straight from open to semifinals, and now they've cut it to 30 individuals. But I guess there's 10 other events that you can qualify for the games for, and with that, where's your head? Is this still something that you're pursuing, or are you just going to do the open and wherever you fall, and your focus is on other things?
I'm trying. I made this in my heart. Like I changed. Like I said earlier, I like team stuff better. Individuals where you can make more money, right? You can get more ego boost, more accolades, all those things that come with it, and that's great. But I enjoy team more, and getting to compete on the team at the games versus individual. I think it meant more as an individual to be like, I did this, I accomplished this, I set out for this goal. But in the sense of enjoying the process, I enjoyed it a lot more with a team. Like I've been a team guy playing team sports. And so this year, like, especially with all the changes, I have a team potentially that we're going to do. It just depends. I'm still waiting to actually hear back like today or tomorrow if we're going to for sure do it or not. Just because of travel things, but I would still like to do that. And it's not necessarily the games itself. If there were big competitions with teams outside of Wadapalooza, like actual male, female team things going on, I'd be doing those for sure.
Right.
But there aren't yet. And I'm hoping it kind of moves that way, along with all the changes that are going on. So I'll still do the open. I still have some individual comps I think I'd like to do that I could go make money at, big ones, but I don't have a passion of like wanting to be the individual that I tried to be or wanted to be. So yeah, I mean, that's just what it looks like with like navigating the new season. So I just did a video, like a 30-minute video on like how to create or how to structure your CrossFit season. We haven't released it yet, but kind of helping people understand like where's the sport going? What does it look like? And how do you kind of manage this new system of everything? So you're not just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. There's too much going on. And yeah, I mean, I'm very strategic in what I'm going to end up doing, but my goals are more on the team side if I can make that happen, because I just enjoy it more.
Is there still the rule in place where you have to be a member for X amount of time at a certain location in order? So you could basically set up like a super team still, and however you want to structure it.
As long as as long as you can fly to that place, do the open there, do the semifinals there, you're fine. Which works, right? And there's only one team per affiliate allowed to do the online semifinal. They're taking for the teams. They're taking all teams that sign up and do the open. All of them move on to semifinals, every single one. But they're only taking 20 to the games this year, and it's all from online. So it's a little different.
Yeah, it's I mean, narrows the window for sure. And you definitely gotta get the right workouts and hope for the best, because there is some luck to it as far as like getting some wheelhouse things. But I mean, obviously fitness is fitness, but when you the more you cut down that number early on, the earlier you cut it down, and the more you cut that early, the harder it is to kind of find your way into it. But I get it, man. The team aspect is always been something that I felt as though is much more fun. And I love, one of the things that I enjoy doing, I think it's from a coaching background, is that I get jacked up watching other people succeed, and more so than myself. And I don't know why, but I feel a sense of pride when I'm on a team and I see somebody do something that they couldn't do, weeks ago or months ago or even a year ago. So I'm sure you kind of get the same way being a team sport guy. But what point does grid come into the fold? Is grid something you knew about prior to, or is this recent discovery? Because I know you haven't done it outside of this first year. So at what point do you find grid and you go, all right, let me give this a try?
Man, I can't remember what year. Dan, our coach, it might have been 2020. It could have been before that. I don't remember. I think it was 2020. I had met him because he's a swim coach in the area. And I don't remember how he reached out to me, but at one point I was going to do a grid 6 when it was kind of like they were trying to push that everywhere. And I was like, screw it, whatever, sounds cool. I think that was right after my individual games. But he like mentioned it to me, and then they didn't do it because of COVID, I'm pretty sure. And then, or whatever happened. But then like from that, there were like the grid trials. They're online like for every year.
Yeah.
This must have been right before it then, because I did the grid trials in 2020 before I went out to Norway and won that one to go to the games. But I did it because I was like, hey, I can sign up for $15 and go win money. and did that and like won a bunch of the races and like took that money to go to Norway. And then I was like, I'm gonna do this every year. So then like every year I started doing a few more and started winning even more of them. And then last year, so not this season, last season was the first season I did do it. And but I was informed if I didn't, because like all the teams were asking me, I was like, if I, like you're gonna keep winning, you're gonna keep taking people's money, especially if you're taking the pros money, right? And
Right.
last year they were like, hey, are you actually gonna play or not? I was just like, I mean, if someone can cover the cost, I can't afford to lose money playing doing one sport of fitness and then another sport of fitness, and like it just doesn't make sense. Um, and finally, Dan was just like, "Hey, we'll figure it out." And there, but he was like, "I'm also you're not allowed to do the grid trials unless you sign with the team." And I was like, "Okay, all right, fine, whatever." So I didn't even do them. I just signed with Dan, and
On sheer principle, nobody's gonna tell you what to do. You
right,
tell me
right.
what
I
to
was just
do.
like, "Fine, whatever." But yeah, and then I mean, last year I won Rookie of the Year, which was cool. But and then this year, like I had talked to Dan and told him I was like, hey, like in order for us to really grow and build, there's some holes you got to fill. And um, I coach, so like one opportunity was I got to coach a lot of our athletes on our team this year and kind of build them through the season,
Yeah.
which was cool. But yeah, I mean, it started. I don't remember if it started with I saw the trials first or if Dan like asked me to do a grid 6 or whatever. But either way, it was kind of around that time, and that money helped me go do CrossFit competitions.
You went to Norway. It's to me, you fit in well in Norway, I bet. Just the hair, the Viking, the whole thing. I mean, that's a great story to be able to tell, hey, I went to Norway and not only did I go, but I qualified for the games.
That was that was a really cool experience. Because I had traveled to a few different places. I mean, I've competed at some really high levels with some. I mean, the best of the best everywhere, and that one was interesting. Like everywhere I went, I had to go by myself, and I was paying it for myself. I didn't have sponsors yet. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, like that's not. It just didn't. You just had to figure it out, work to go compete, and like one thing I realized though when I did win that, like I was super excited, but it was the team aspect. Like I didn't have family with me, I didn't have friends with me, like I didn't get to celebrate with anybody. It was just like a pat on the back, like I did it, and that was like that meant a lot to me. But like I would have rather done it with other people. However, the venue was super sick. You were up in the mountains in a hotel in the middle of Norway in the mountains, and
Oh,
like it was crazy. It was a crazy time, but I did enjoy that.
I felt sad for you today. I was looking at your social media and you were on an assault runner and you were just staring at the garage door. And I was just like, I feel that so much because like now that I've become a dad, like I've stopped coaching and all of my CrossFit is done, at 5 a.m. in the gym by myself. And like I felt that picture so much this morning. I was like, dude, like I get it. I get it, man. But you're right. When you can train with people, like it's different. I feel like I'm can flip a switch and I can have the same intensity with people and by myself, but it's always way more fun to be around folks in the gym and doing things and throwing down. Um, but you commit to the wild. You tell Dan, you say, hey, all right, look, bro, I'm on the team. I got you. Um, so your first year was 2 years ago, rookie of the year. What was that a goal that you had set in mind, or based on like your success with the grid 6, did you go, that's probably something I'm gonna just get because I'm that good?
Um, I don't. I didn't really have a goal outside of like I wanted us to win as a team, just win the championship as a team. Um, but I also didn't have a lot of exposure to like what each position is going to be needed to be capable of outside of like the talent level that I knew I was going to bring to our team. And um
Is it a big trend? Like, is there a huge learning curve, or because that you were in a fitness realm and you're like, this ain't a problem?
No, do your job, learn your job, do your job. That's really easy. Like the thing is you get prepared. Like it's different. Like CrossFit's unknown, unknowable. Well, like grids, hey, these are your tests. Practice and train for them. Send it. Like it's that clean and simple. And so go drill stuff. If you're not comfortable, go repeat it,
Practice. Yeah.
repeat it, learn new things, play around with like how to go faster, learn like new nuances and things like that. So there was like a learning curve in the sense of rules. But outside of that, like just the sport of racing now.
It's like pick up the weight, lift the weight.
Right.
And then all the little details of, like in a partner forward, where to be, when to go, like all of that stuff you practice as you go. But you then move from rookie of the year, and then next year you're a champion. Like what was different? You said that you told Dan that you needed to do something and fill a hole. What was that hole that you needed to fill?
We needed to balance out our team more with some different athletes that we were missing for sure. And also like just the preparedness of like coaching, right? So one big thing is like Taylor Stallings has been successful in the sport for a long time. And one thing she does is not only is she a player, but she's a coach. I mean, she's the head coach. She's got even more work to do, but like she's programming and coaching and training and teaching these athletes how to do things. And one thing we added this year was like some of these athletes signed up as one-on-one clients to me, or they would just be a part of our business of coaching and like teaching them, training them. If they had a hole in strength, they had a hole in power output, whatever it was, we helped them. And like the goal wasn't having them ready like by the start of the season. It was having them prepared to go make sure we make the playoffs and go win a championship. So continuously building them through the season. And like if anybody was like in tune and watching our team, you could tell there's a lot of like ebbs and flows of how they got better and like their mistakes. But as it still went, you could see it was constantly moving up. And then by the time we got into the playoffs and championship, it was the best they've ever, like the whole team's ever done.
You could see from match one of the regular season the difference in the team, and as far as how you performed, but also just like the comfort and like the pace and then the speed, like everything. Like you said, you had some ebbs and some flows, but you could tell from match one all the way to the championship, you were on this trajectory to peak at the right time. On this podcast, my other co-hosts and I, we talked to Jonathan and Mia, the owners of the Wild, and we predicted the Wild to win just because of the strength aspect that you guys had, but also the balance. You guys were very heavily balanced as far as on both sides, the male and the female. But I could see you guys getting better and better, and the things that you might have needed to tweak, you tweaked the next time, and then whatever you needed to tweak that week, it got better the next week. So you constantly had this progression of getting better, and it just showed. You get to the playoffs, and you guys just dominate. I mean, it helps when you don't have to play a regular season match and you take care of business during the regular season to put yourself in a position to have not to have to worry about, oh, I got to win to get in, or I got to win by, or not lose by X amount of points. You didn't have to worry about that shit. You just said, I'm going to show up on this day, and whatever team is over there, they're going to lose. And point blank, period. And, you get the aces in the first round. And, what are you thinking when you get a Taylor Stallings team? You got to believe like you're going to get the best of the best. Like if you can take care of business against them, you're pretty set in the championship because they're gonna bring it. But knowing that you got the aces, what was the mindset going into that first playoff match?
Execute. Like that was it. Like one thing for a lot of the guys and girls on our team was this is an opportunity to prove that you are the best. And like you said, like they're going to bring the best. And I think like that was, don't get me wrong, the Sharks played super well and all, but the Aces were the hardest match of the year for us by far, closest race every single time by margins. And it was literally just about making sure, like, once they went out there and they executed, they were gonna learn. It was like one of those, like, stacking wins. Like, once you won there, like, you felt like you were gonna win it all, and it was just one race at a time and kinda keeping them locked in on each race and, and go out there and they're like, "Oh, we won this race. Oh, we won this race." Like, we're gonna do it. And that was kinda the process for them, was just taking one race at a time. Um and executing exactly what you need to be doing. Just do your job and we'll win. That was it. And I think that was the biggest change, is like people learn, like, if I just do my job, I don't have to worry about anybody else. We're going to be fine.
Yeah, it's when you look back at that Aces match, like, or even the playoffs in general, like, you guys dominated every race. There was one part in the Aces match where I think they had a ringer point. I think it was triple unders or something.
Mm-hmm.
They threw a bonus flag and
Yep.
they got close. It wasn't even like a scary close, but it was like, all right, I want to say it might have been like 5, and then they got it to like 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And but then it was like, no big deal, because you guys turn around and just crush and cruise through the back half of the match. Then you get a chance. So not only do you take down the defending champ in round 1, but in the championship match, you get the number 1 seed, the Sharks, which, when you go, let me write a story of winning a championship, that's probably the way you want to go. Give me the best of the best from last year, and probably one of the most veteran players with one of the most veteran teams. Give me them first, and then let me get some redemption against this number 1 seed team, and let's win it all, because I think that solidifies in and of itself like how good you guys were that season. But you get the Sharks, and really, like, it wasn't, not that it wasn't a challenge, but you guys executed. And I say executed in from the jump. You and
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Fisher set the tone for that championship match, just absolutely demolishing that. Um, I can't remember, you probably know, if you guys were behind, and then as you guys came into that last 2 quadrants, you
Yep.
just smoked it.
Yep. Yeah,
And
we're pretty much behind in every partner forward.
I think she was telling me that when I had her on. She was like, "Yeah, I don't know what it is, but we're always behind." And I was like, "Well,
well,
if that's what works, then
we
do it."
know, we like her and I know. So like, we're like, if they can just keep us close enough, we're gonna catch anybody. I don't
Yeah.
care, but there's a time, like, they got to be close enough. And typically it was, as long as someone didn't fault on our side, even if we were behind, as long as we didn't fault, we could catch them. But once people started faulting in those first 2 quadrants, it would be really hard to catch them. And this one, like, going out there, I mean, we were a good distance behind for that low of volume on those, but it just was executed super well. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was still super close even to that last rep, but we found a way to get it done. But yeah, that set the tone, and everybody on the team, you could tell they were like, "Oh shit, it's time."
Yeah, it's I think if you could look at the Sharks after that, the faces, I think that was very demoralizing for them, and I think that was very, telling for them as how this match was going to go, because it didn't get any better for them. You guys went through, I would say you cruised, but you basically cruised through it, and you guys pick up a nice win, a nice championship. What's it mean at the end of the season when you go, all right, we're the best? Like, is it like, hey, we knew this going in, what we could do, or was there like a sense of, hell yeah, like, that was something big, like, we should be proud, we should celebrate that? Because I know what I would do, and I'd be like, I was in Vegas again, I'm just living it
Right.
up.
Right. No, I would love to tell you, like, the expectation is to win at the beginning of the year, obviously. But after your first match, like, you kind of can reassess where you're at and then where you need to be. And like, the amount of growth that needed to happen was large, and it happened. So like, it was kind of a sense of relief to do it. But once, like, again, through that Aces match, once that happened, I was like, we're good. We're good. We're fine. We got where we needed to be. But sometimes, like, when you're coaching athletes and you're a part of a team, you don't know. You don't know if it's going to hit when it's supposed to hit. Just like an NFL team, right? That when you get hot, you get hot. But
Yeah.
if you don't hit, if you don't get there, it's going to be a bad time. So
if you watched the Rams last night,
They got hot.
They're scary right now.
Matt Stafford, when he's hot, is scary.
Yeah. I mean, you're an Atlanta guy. He's a Georgia dude. Like you should be all over Matt Stafford, right? I mean,
well, my wife went to UGA, so she's a big fan. Yeah,
big fan.
Yeah, big fan.
So let me ask you this: was there any nerves going into the playoffs for you personally? I just feel like for you, like you've been on such like big stages, and you've had so much like on the line in certain aspects of competition that you've done. Like to me, like nerves, like maybe, but I wouldn't picture you to be a guy that's nervous before the start.
For this, not as much. I think more of my like nervousness was about like just the athletes that I coached on our team. You know, like hoping that I've done enough for them to get them where they needed to be and to execute. I mean, I do get a ton of performance anxiety, but it's literally a conditioned response from football. Like there's nothing I can do, but it has nothing to do with about the outcome. It's just for my own performance to exceed my own expectations.
If you want to see nervous energy before a workout, just go to the bathroom and watch how many people go into the bathroom, man, especially at a CrossFit competition, because it's ridiculous. It's crazy. Like it just sneaks up on you, man. It does. But you win it all, and obviously you guys, do you enjoy it? Do you kind of go out as a team and go, let's celebrate a little bit, or do you go, hey, let's run this back? What do we got to do for next season to do this again?
A little bit of both. I think like Dan immediately was like, this is what I need. I already started thinking like, this is what I need to do for next year. But we all went out to dinner and hung out as a team and enjoyed it, you know. No, I don't think anyone, well, the girls got a little nuts, but for the most part, the guys were just hanging out. Yeah, I mean, it was a good time to hang out. Like I enjoy that team side of it, and you get to celebrate with other people for accomplishing a goal you set out to do. And, but I will say this. I think one thing that the like Grid as a league should do is they need to have like a ceremony to finish it out. You kind of won, and then it was like, oh, cool, we won. Like there wasn't like a trophy. There wasn't like they could be like I presented like, hey, someone have a giant WWE weightlifting belt, but it's for Grid, and that's the championship trophy, and you present it to them, and like have some type of ending to it. It felt like it was a little left hanging, but outside of that, I mean, we got
this is what you do. Grid, Mather, I hope you hear this. Need to get a champagne company. There you go.
There you go.
Go pop some bottles.
Yeah.
I mean, for those that don't drink, Welch's sparkling grape juice.
There you go.
There you go. No, I kid, but yeah, you're right.
It's a good visual, right? And it like for even for marketing and media of the sport, like it's a good visual for people watching. Check out. And like I didn't realize the camera was still rolling after we kind of like went through and shook hands, and we had practiced like celebrations early on in the year. I was like, we're gonna start doing sellies after we went races. And I forgot like one of them I thought I was gonna do when I won that ringer point, and I didn't. But at the end, I had Pat come up behind me and just like shoot me in the head, and I dropped dead and went into the worm, and I didn't realize it was live. And I was like, oh, that was sick. I'm glad they did that. But, like have some type of after match thing, to kind of, because they're so used to like running into the next match, into the next match, into the next match. So I think
you look at it as like, that's a culmination of, a long season. I mean, we're not talking about, the league is small amount of teams and you don't have as many like regular season matches. But when you talk about the length of the season, it is a long season, 6 or more weeks in between matches. That can take a toll. So like when you win it all, like there should be some type of celebration. There should be some type of like big, like visual, confetti, put you guys up, like have like a trophy, have like an MVP of the final, like something,
right.
I think that'll probably come in due time. I would probably say next year that will be something that is done. Just because that's a good idea. And if you're wanting to be in the mix of a professional sport. Every professional sport that you have crowns a champion, and to be honest, they're all crowned relatively the same way. Like you see
Right.
the visual of every, of the same thing typically. But looking at next season, what is your plan? Are you re-signing with the Wild? Are you holding off? Are you even going to play? Are you going to do grid 6 and eat up some of that money and then make a decision?
It really depends. So we kind of I have to wait and just figure out exactly what's going on between all the CrossFit season, right? They're just starting to release all this stuff.
Right.
And then Grid hasn't announced yet what the season structure is going to look like and dates. I do know they're moving them up. So one thing on a team, like if you're on a team, it's the team first. So you have to decide, like you can't go and do all these other individual things. And by moving it up, it's going to cross a lot more into the CrossFit side of everything. So it really depends on what the scheduling looks like. Cause I won't do this. I won't sign up on a team and say, hey guys, like I'm only going to be there for 2 matches. Like that's not
right.
Doesn't matter. Like if I'm the best person on the team, like that's not a team aspect and a team mentality. And so I won't do that. So it just depends on what everything looks like schedule wise to make it happen.
Yeah. What you don't want is to go, and give 50% effort when the team needs you to be 100%. But also when you say, well, I'll be there for what I can make, you're taking a spot away from someone else who could be there all the time. And yeah, they may not be as strong as you or as good as you, but they're going to put forth some effort. And like, how do you develop players? Like, because at some point, hopefully the league is intact still, but Griffin will be on to the next thing, and he might be coaching, he might be owner, but he may not be playing. And so in order to keep the development of the league and the development of players, like you got to have the opportunities for players, because roster spots are a premium. Like you got to be good. And yes, like if you're not the best, you still can have a spot on the roster for certain aspects, but you definitely want to make sure, because one of the things that I've heard is that one of the detriments of, or the negativities or things that can cause a season to unwind quickly is when you're not a team. And if you're not showing up to practice, or you're not practicing, or you're not communicating, or you're kind of doing your own thing, all of that creates this wedge into what you're trying to do. And being a team guy, like it doesn't surprise me where you're saying I'm either all in or I'm all out. And
I mean, the other thing is, like, I also told Dan, I was like, no matter what the season looks like, I want to be involved in helping, like the team, whether it might be coaching, it might be programming and coaching athletes, like you just said, is to helping build them, develop them, and create them to be elite at the sport, which is I enjoy doing a lot. I mean, that's my full-time job now. It's all I want to do. But like that, I'm not, whether I end up competing or not, I'm going to be involved. I just don't know right now which capacity.
So are you coaching Amanda Fisher?
No, that's our other coach, Kyle.
Well, she had some mighty fine things to say about you. She, was proud of you and proud that you're on the team, but also proud that you guys got to kick ass every match. So, what does it mean to have someone like that say those kind of words, but also someone like Amanda to win the MVP of the league?
Well, I mean, I appreciate it, but without her on the team, you don't win, right? Like it's just you need her on the team. She's the best female in the league. It is like by far the best. So being able to be out there, like I could always rely on her being able to do her job always at all times, and not only just do her job, just excel at her job, right? So you never have to worry about her doing anything. But, sometimes you gotta rein her in, because like she'll get hot out there when people aren't doing their job, which by all means I go for it. But someone's got to be the cool, calm, collected, and someone's gonna be the hot one. So it works.
She's holding folks accountable, man.
Right? No, agreed. But again, you always have to have both sides. You got to have someone that's just going to go for your throat, which is what I did in football, but I realized I can't be doing that anymore. And then I think it's also different when it comes from a female. It's kind of like, all right, I'm going to listen. I'm going to stay in straight line, and it is what it is. From a guy, it's like we might have to go outside.
Yeah, definitely a different approach. So next year, the Wild, they are going to be the hunted, man. They have the target on their back, defending champs. What do you foresee happening? Is there a lot of people coming back? Is the roster going to turn over? Outside of you, obviously, but like, what do you look forward to with the Wild for 2025?
I would honestly say this. I want to see growth in the team aspect of like specialties. So one big hole that was both years have been an issue is the high level gymnastics on the female side. I want to see Dan close that gap because that would push that team in a much better trajectory, right? The sport obviously continually adds higher level gymnastics as it should. The strength side's not moving any higher right now, and to be honest, like it's pretty easy. So you can get a lot of guys in there to do it. So I don't think that the issue's not on that side. I think he needs to keep building that female side. It's kind of the same thing as like that way, like Amanda doesn't have to do as many things, right? I mean, year one, I was in every single freaking race possible. Did everything. I was in anything and everything. I was in there, right? And that's cool. I'm all for it, but you want to have a specialty for each thing, right? And then this year, I didn't have to quite do as much, which was great. Not that I don't mind doing it all, but you should. That's not what a team is, right? You don't. Right. If you have one person doing it all, you're not.
But that kind of defeats the purpose of what grid is about. When you have specialist, and that's a roster position, like you should have the best of those different specialties doing those events, not the strength specialist doing the body weight specialist stuff, even though they can do it. But like, you want to have some depth when it comes to that. And if Griffin had to get up there on them rings, like, so be it, let him do it. But the thing is, it would probably be nice if Griffin didn't have to get up on those rings.
Yeah, I was doing butterfly ring muscle ups last year. I mean, we had to. We had an injury or whatever, and I had to go in and do them. But like that's the thing is like I want to see that growth for Dan, and really because also as the league grows, you're going to be able to pull in more specialty players, right? Like utility is CrossFit. At the end of the day, you are CrossFit. You can do everything. You need to be still specialized at certain parts of being fast, but you need to have high level gymnastics. So you need to find people that did gymnastics. I mean, it would be great to find them that did them at a collegiate level, right?
Right.
Strength. Again, that's where I feel like the sport so far is lacking, where like you don't quite need like true strongmen to go do the events. You just need dudes, really strong dudes in CrossFit right now. I think that could be pushed further, but as the sport keeps progressing, you're going to have to find those specialty people. And like, that's what also people are going to like see as a fan base and be like, man, now the sport's crazy. Right. So then you bring in even higher level athletes, which also means the athletes are doing it now. They have to keep progressing to keep their job. Right.
Do you think there would ever be a time, and while we're on the subject of the league expanding and evolving, do you think there would be another type of position that's created as this thing gets bigger? I don't know what it would be. I mean, you have body weight, you have strength, you have utility, but like, would there ever be a time where like there's like an endurance specialist, or like, I don't know, I'm just throwing stuff out there, like someone who can jump really high? Like,
yeah, I think where it would evolve is the utility side, because it's like strength is strength, and that is a big part of it. And then like body weight is a big part of it. But now like in utility, it's so well rounded. You could start being utility strength or utility body weight. Right. And those become more specified. Like I would be considered, if you were going to start doing that now, I'm utility strength.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think if you were an elite team, that is where you'll move to, because if you can have that, like each race should be very defined at what your roles are.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. And, I'll ask you this before I let you run, man. The evolution, the expansion, the growth of the league, this is something that it can be fearful as far as like, well, where are we going and is this sustainable? But like everything that I've seen over the past few years with going from a regional format of the Florida Grid League to now the United Grid League with a team in Atlanta who just won a championship to now a team in Houston. And on y'all's podcast, they talk, Mather talked about the expansion of the league even further, that's going to be announced at some point soon. When you put all those things into a barrel, like that's got to be a good sign as far as like what's to come and like the stability of the league and the duration of what the league could be, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think this sport has extremely high potential. But yeah, and you have to be very, you have to be cautious. You're gonna have to take risks, but you got to be smart on how you build this out, right? Um, but I think it has a higher potential than CrossFit does, not as a sport, right? Like anybody and everybody can do CrossFit, not and like grid is not an anybody and everybody can do it. You can work on it and you can get there, but you have to be a specialty in order to
Yeah.
be at like to compete as a professional at the sport. Like you got to have a specialty. Like you can do the things and learn it, which is awesome, right? It's great to have those tricks in your pocket, but um it's more of a sport styled direction, which is cool. So then you have a bigger fan base to watch and all those things. But I would say this as the sport grows, like you also have to have like a main group that's a part of it. And I'd either say you need so CrossFit's been messing this up where they have athlete councils and all those things. They're not actually doing it the way they need to be doing it. And I've been on a few of them and it was a waste of time. One thing that I think would be really beneficial as this keeps growing is like you have an athlete council, whatever you want to call it. And you have a few of them that are retired from grid that have played the sport. So like Taylor's retired. She'd be perfect to be in there. And then like maybe one or two people that are still in the sport. And those are the people that should be feeding feedback on like, hey, like this is a good like move. This is where we should be going. Or like, hey, these things really need to be addressed to keep getting the sport to grow. Because unless you are an athlete, you don't get to see or feel or understand what it's like on that athlete side. But also vice versa, those athletes also don't get to see what it is on the staffing side of the sport. So, but you need those groups. And as it grows, like because it gets so big, then you have to have smaller groups to help continuously grow that sport.
It's really hard the bigger you grow to have complete transparency from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But I think some of the best organizations that are as transparent as possible, like those are the ones that thrive. And the bigger you get, the harder it is to do that. And sometimes like not every little thing that the league decides is something that everyone needs to know. But I would say at least have the avenue that way if they wanted to know, they could, you know?
Right.
That way nobody feels like they're in the dark about anything because at the end of the day, it's the thing that drives this are the players that are out there competing. So you always want to make sure, and I think this is what CrossFit kind of gets away from is you always want to make sure that the athletes out there competing always feel as though they're being valued for
Mm-hmm.
that. And when you stop feeling valued as an athlete or as a player, that's when you start rethinking, is this something that I want to do? And I think CrossFit's kind of in that weird position over the past 10 years where they've kind of been up and down in that, well, people are rethinking, do I even want to do this? And
Mm-hmm.
gyms are rethinking affiliation, and you've had some unaffiliate and then go back to it. So it's just kind of this weird situation. But long story short, I think the league is in a great position. I think, Ruby and Mather have done a really good job of, trying to take slow, methodical steps for expansion. And, you're seeing the kind of the fruits of that. And some people may want it to move faster, but at the end of the day, man, you just want to make sure that you're growing every year and you have the ability to do it next year. And then after that, you want to be able to do it the next year. So something sustainable.
For sure. You ought, like, too much growth is also bad. That's how you implode. So, constant improvement, little details every single year. It's all you're looking for. But I'll tell you, I mean, look, the one thing that Grid I know does better is that they market a lot better. Like, people want to watch crazy shit.
Yeah.
I mean, even when, like, people that follow me that are, or even just members at a gym, they'll be like, what's that crazy? Why are you guys doing all that crazy shit? And I'm like, well, you're watching it, aren't you? Like, well, yeah. I'm like, exactly. It's entertaining.
I mean, the traffic that the league gets on reels from what you guys do is unreal. Like, people will watch those things, and myself included, 30, 40 times just in a row, just on repeat. I mean, I got to show you this, because this right here just doesn't even, like, this looks AI to me, and I am just baffled about this. So let me share the screen with you. This right here, bro, it just doesn't look real to me. Like, that is impressive. And that would be, a picture that I would blow up and I would put on a billboard. It's close to the gym that you go to and work at as possible. And just be like, 2025, what you got? If you want people to come into the gym, show them that, and they're there. But man, that's like unbelievable. And I looked at that, and I looked at that picture, and I was like, man, is this real? Is this real? So I got to ask you, is that picture's real, right?
Yeah. Yeah. People kept sending to me, I'm like, dude, what? And I'm like, it's just a shot. I mean, the only reason it really looks like that is because I normally move so fast. Like, I've got to make sure everything's as clean as possible. So one thing I do, like, when I'm extending overhead, is I press my shoulders through my head, right? Instead of just locking out like this, I get here, and that just pushes out your lats to be bigger. That's all. So it's like a flex on a movement.
I mean, I'd hide behind you, man. That's you're my shield, bro, for sure. No wonder why you're CrossFit Thor on all the socials, man. It just makes sense, dude. Makes sense. Griffin, dude, man, I appreciate your time. I'll let you bounce. Anything you want to plug or promote before you run out of here?
The only thing honestly, it's not even really necessarily a plug. If anybody needs help coaching wise in anything, whether it's, high level sports or even just a day-to-day, like, structure, like you said, you struggle with, just being a dad, having to work out, like, what I specialize is coaching and programming and making sure I take care of, like, I'm not one of those coaches that tells you, like, hey, you're going to have to do it. No, your lifestyle, depending upon where you're at, we got to meet you there, right? In order to get you to goals, we have to understand that. But yeah, Blacklisted, that's where I coach at. That's what we run for. This is what we specialize in. And we pretty much will take any of your goals and get you there. Like, we'll get you there. We invest our time into you. That's it. The athletes are first. So yeah, I mean, and if anybody needs to help in Grid, same idea, same thing. So,
and you guys
I'll just reach out.
You guys do face-to-face and remote, I'm assuming?
Yep.
Nice. Well, I know a lot of dudes out there, and some ladies too. Y'all ain't excused from this either, that could use some work. And not that they don't work out, but like, it's one of those things that you always can find an excuse if you want to. Oh, I'm too busy. Oh, job is very stressful. Oh, I'm a dad. I'm a mom. Like, it's always something. So I think having an outside coach help you work through those challenges, because that's what you have to do. Like you said, you meet people where they're at, because I think the last thing you want to do is have a client that comes on January 1st, and then 2 weeks later they're like, this ain't for me, or a month later, nah, like, I'm gonna fall back into old patterns. So I appreciate what you do. I appreciate your time. Y'all go to Blacklisted, check out Griffin. If you need a coach, I'm telling you, man, he's got quite the resume. He's not gonna make you a regional athlete out the gate. He's gonna meet you where you are. So, Griffin, man, I appreciate you. I wish you the best of luck in your season. We'll see what CrossFit structure is. We'll see what the grid structure is. And to be honest, man, I'd like to see you back on the grid. Definitely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. That's Griffin Roelle, everybody. If you like hearing Griffin's story, or you just like hearing us average Joes talk X's and O's, please like, share the podcast on Facebook, retweet us on X, listen and subscribe wherever you stream your podcast. Head over to YouTube, click likes, click subscribe, click notifications. That way, when all the content is uploaded, you'll be the first to know. We'll see everybody Wednesday, or tomorrow is Wednesday. Man, it's been a long week. We'll see everybody on Thursday. We got Chelsea Ranieri, Southwest Florida Sharks. And then on Friday, we're ending the week with Reese Lions of the Palm Beach Breakers. This has been the Grid and Grind Show, brought to you by In Off the Bench Podcast. As always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grit and grind all the time. We are out.